Welcome to Keep Traveling Your African Story, the only podcast that shares the real voices and journeys shaping African tourism. I'm your host, 𝐸𝐿, and through my inbound tour operation, Keep Traveling, I've had the privilege of connecting travelers from all around the world with the magic of Africa. This podcast is my way of opening that world up to you, a place to learn about the people, properties, and opportunities that make travel across this continent so very special. Today, I'm excited to introduce Darryl Erasmus, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at Babanango Game Reserve, who joins me to share his African story. Darryl, welcome to the show.
Thanks, 𝐸𝐿. It's good to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. And as I said, we look forward to chatting more about Babanango Game Reserve and really elevating the brand that is Babanango and what the experience is that we have to offer.
Darryl, first of all, tell us, for visitors from outside of South Africa and outside of Africa, tell us exactly where Babanango is and how would be the best way to get to you.
Sure. So Babanango Game Reserve is in the heart of the KwaZulu-Natal province. It's an area of the province called Zululand. At the moment, the only way to reach the reserve is to drive. It's about a 6-hour drive from Johannesburg. You obviously would head east. The quickest way to get there is to use Durban as your point of entry, or if you're flying from another part of the world or another part of the country, to fly into Durban. And it's about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive north of Durban. So you would head north on the N2, and then once eventually you get to the sort of intersection that leads you to the Ulundi-Vryheid area, you would take a left turn and head west into the heart of Zululand. I must say, something worth mentioning right off the bat is accessibility is always so important. And we have spent the last probably 3 to 4 months with a very ambitious project to construct our own airstrip. At the moment, the airstrip is going through approval phase with the Civil Aviation Authority, and we really look forward to letting the market know, which will be imminent, when we have the airfield approved. And what that's going to do is allow those people who either want to charter in from arriving in Joburg or arriving in Durban straight onto the reserve, or we know there's a very strong sort of fly-in safari market with people who've got private planes, and obviously having an airstrip on the property that is approved by the CAA is going to give them the comfort to then fly in and come and enjoy a weekend away or a long weekend away, but use their personal and private aircraft to gain access. So we're very excited about that development and hopefully going to create much more accessibility to markets we haven't previously been able to get to. So a nice development for us.
Just tell us a little bit about that runway. I don't know how that works. What sort of aircraft would be able to arrive on that strip?
Sure. So the length of the runway is about 1,400 meters. Width is just over, if I remember correctly, just over 20 meters wide. In terms of the international standards, we can accommodate aircraft, or will be able to accommodate aircraft on approval. Those that are in the region of Pilatus BC-12, King Air B200, and anything smaller than that. So anything from a Cessna Caravan, very important to mention as well, because a lot of the charter companies use the Cessna Caravans as shuttle services and as charter services. So anything from 10-seater downwards we'll be able to accommodate, just because the length of the runway is important. I think location, also very important. It's right up on the ridge, easily accessible. And obviously you're going to be able to get the coordinates from us as soon as the approval process is concluded.
Fantastic. But of course, international guests coming in are still going to have to clear customs at OR Tambo or Durban first before coming to you, right?
Correct. A normal international scheduled flight, say if you're coming in from across the world, would land typically either in Durban, in Cape Town or Joburg, and you would clear customs and immigration. Those who are looking for a more exclusive getaway, some who fly on private aircraft would use FBOs like Firebird and others. And obviously sometimes they have the opportunity to clear customs and immigrations with Home Affairs at those private air service providers. And then connecting in from there into Babanango would be a simple and easy process.
Okay, so we finally gotten into Babanango, whether we've driven or flown. Tell us a little bit about the camps or lodges in terms of the amenities, who they might suit, who they might not suit, and why would people want to go to one as opposed to the other, or should they mix it up and go to all 4 of them? Give us a rundown on that.
Will do, with pleasure. And it's actually more than 4, because again, it's a product that's relatively new and it's consistently being developed and upgraded and improved, and we're adding new experiences. So I think before I mention the product portfolio, it's important to mention Babanango Game Reserve is just over 20,000 hectares, and it's one of the largest, if not the largest, private game reserve in the KZN region. The topography is undulating. We have an 800-meter elevation difference between the lowest point and the highest point on the reserve. Lots of mountains, lots of valleys. We also have 20 kilometers of the White Umfolozi River as river frontage on the property itself. So it gives a really nice idea to changing landscapes, beautiful vistas, beautiful views. And it really is I've had the fortune of traveling across not just South Africa in previous roles, but traveling around the world. I've stayed at some of the most exquisite places around the world. And I can tell you that the land, the natural habitat of Babanango Game Reserve is one of the most beautiful I've encountered in all my travels. And we're then very fortunate to have private lodges on those reserves, which then enables access onto the reserve. Also, being a private reserve, we don't allow any private vehicle and self-drives on the reserve. We have game viewing vehicles, which are then used by the lodges to traverse the landscapes and take guests on game drives, which I think is really important because we're a Big 5 game reserve, we're in a malaria-free zone, but also you then get the opportunity to have a very uncrowded and uncluttered experience. When you visit the reserve, you're not competing for sightings with hundreds of other vehicles like you might at other reserves. We literally have 15 or so game viewing vehicles that are out on the reserve at any particular time, and majority of the time, more so often than not, you will not encounter another game viewing vehicle whilst you're out on the reserve. So I think that's also something that differentiates this product significantly. Lodges-wise and the portfolio-wise, I'm going to start at the bottom end of the market. We have a product called BOE, or Babanango Outdoor Education. It's actually quite a relatively well-known product that has evolved over the years. It's a concept very similar to the old Veld School, as you may know it from those of us who went to Veld School in our school years, in our sort of formative years. But it's an opportunity for schools, universities to bring larger quantities of learners, students out to the property. We have 24 tents. They can accommodate varying numbers of people, and they come out and they spend some time on the reserve, and it's an educational process, and there's a particular curriculum that we agreed to with whoever the particular entity is that we are going to be hosting. And that's a really nice product, which again services a very different market for us. In the same area of the reserve, we have Babanango Outdoor Education. We then have Natal Camp, which is 7 self-catering chalets, also beautifully equipped, beautifully delivered in a really beautiful part of the reserve. The swimming pool for me is the best place to be because of the view out over the valley that looks out over the White Umfolozi River. There's really exciting things to do there. Zip lines, we've got a magnificent suspensions bridge across the river, and lots of different activities for people to do whilst they're out there. Again, because we don't allow private vehicles, you can arrange a particular game viewing vehicle and a game drive from Natal Camp onto the reserve. It's self-catering, but there are different facilities at that particular part of the property where there's tuck shops, and we do a little bit of catering where necessary. Then moving into our more sort of exclusive product portfolio, I think I'm going to start off with Babanango Valley Lodge, which is again a luxury product, but very well suited to families traveling. It's the only camp that we have of the top 3 that is actually enclosed and protected by fencing. Ideal, let me say, for families traveling. You have the luxury of the safety of being in a fenced off area. There are 9 rooms up at Valley Lodge. In addition to the 9 rooms at Valley Lodge, we have an exclusive use house that is a 3-bedroom house on the property, again ideal for families, and we offer full board rates. Babanango Valley Lodge, you'll be paying a rate. It would include 2 game drives, and it would include all of your meals during your stay. The rooms are adjoining, so that's why I said very unique and very ideal for families. I've seen a trend, and there is a global trend emerging around multi-generational, intergenerational travel. So you have grandparents, parents, and their grandkids traveling together. And if you've got a bigger group, it's the ideal place for us to host you on the reserve. There's also a small LARPA area / conference facility. So we can also do, if there's a small group, let's say 8 to 10 people who are looking for a high-end sort of strategy session or exco session, we can accommodate that at Valley Lodge. And then taking a little bit step up from there, we have another property on the reserve called Zululand. Zululand has only got 7 rooms. They are not connected. They are individual sort of standalone units. It's very popular with couples traveling. It's very popular for people who are looking for weekend breakaways. There aren't conference facilities there, but we do have a magnificent new spa and a wellness area gym being built. Again, hopefully will be concluded and completed in the coming weeks, which will add a different sort of guest experience to the Zulu Rock property. I think what differentiates Zulu Rock from the rest of the portfolio is it's located high up on a ridge, and sitting out there at the breakfast area or around the sort of bonfire on the patio, you have the most beautiful views of Zululand that I think you will find anywhere on the reserve. And I think that's the key differentiator. And then our top of the range ultra luxury offering is a property that we call 𝐦𝐸 River Lodge. 𝐦𝐸 River Lodge has got 12 tents, so it's a tented camp. They are luxury tents, no expenses being spared in terms of their construction. There's obviously a public area where we have a lounge, a library, the dining facilities, general public area for guests, as well as a beautiful equipped gym. All the equipment has been brought in from Germany, and an infinity pool, which again is great for the summer months where you want to cool off. And again, like I said, it's a high-end product. What we do there is allow for conferencing as well. Again, if you've got a big executive group that wants to find some way to conference that is unique beyond the boardroom, we can set up a boardroom facility. There are facilities in the library that we can then use to set up conferencing, video conferencing, and again, a very nice experience, more for the high-end sort of individual. It is located on the White Umfolozi River, so there's this continuous sort of river noises that you can hear. So somebody who's not a good sleeper, if you don't like the white noise of a river flowing past your tent during the night, you're going to struggle. But those of you who love the experience of being totally immersed in nature will find it most therapeutic and serendipitous sort of experience. It's really a magnificent property, and we're very proud to take it to market. So that's the product portfolio across the reserve. All in all, if you exclude the tents at Natal and specifically those at Babanango Outdoor Education, we've only got just over 30 rooms. So it's a smallish operation, but attention to detail and making sure we get the guest experience really sublime is key for us.
I just want to touch on the sleeping. If you can't sleep in a beautiful surrounding like what you are describing with the water in the background and everything, then you're never going to sleep.
Yeah, lovely. Good. And it's very similar to what you'd experience at the ocean. The ocean has ebbs and flows of the waves, and we just have this continuous water flowing right there at the camp. Properties being built right on the edge of the high water line. So you really do get a magnificent experience of nature and the river flowing past us.
So you've spoken about catering and self-catering, and I don't want to really touch on the self-catering. That's going to be, I would assume, more for the local and regional travelers. But for the international travelers where you're catering for them, can you tell us a little bit about the food experiences at Babanango's?
Absolutely. And you point out correctly that the Babanango, the Matatan camps are the ones where you'll be self-catering. The other lodges, as I mentioned, it's all full board. So we prepare breakfast, we obviously prepare lunch for you, and then we prepare dinner. The dinners, breakfast, lunches, and the menus are always a culmination of your traditional South African foods. We try and source from local communities, local suppliers, so that people really get a feel for Africa and a feel for South Africa, and more importantly, a feel for Zululand when they're enjoying their meals. Location-wise, we have the luxury of having 20,000 hectares, so we don't always have to serve our meals in a restaurant, and often the hospitality team create these moments of delight and moments of surprise where they actually take guests away from the lodges themselves or the campsites themselves, and they'll serve breakfast or lunch or dinner either in a boma or somewhere out in the bushveld, and just creating a different experience. We obviously then take along the menu and use the menu to make sure we augment the experience. I must also say at Zulu Rock, as well as at Madwaleni, we have beautiful wine cellars. So again, South African wines are some of, if not the best in the world, and making sure that our wine selection is updated on a regular basis is something that we're very focused on, and making sure again that the wine that is served is not just a premium experience, but also reflects the best of South Africa, and if we can, the best of Zululand at every opportunity. It's always going to be a culinary experience, irrespective of what lodge you actually stay in for the night or for a few nights.
No one's going home hungry, Darryl, and seldom are they going to wake up without a sore head, right?
It depends what your choice of beverage is. If you do enjoy the grapes or something a little bit stronger, you might have a headache in the morning, but nothing like the fresh air of a game reserve to clear your head in the morning, right?
Sure. So we've covered the food. You spoke briefly about the driving safaris, and I just want to touch on that. Do you only drive because walking is becoming more of an activity that people are looking for, where you can really not just look at those big game like the giraffe and the big five and everything like that, but you get to experience other pieces of flora and fauna that you wouldn't normally see and interact with on a game drive. So do you operate and offer walking as well?
Absolutely, we do. And I actually omitted to mention it when I was talking about the product portfolio. One of the things we have recently introduced is the 𝐸𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵 Trails Camp. It's 4 tents located up in the upper ends of the reserve, and it serves as a base for our walking safari offering. It's something we've only introduced recently, but again, we've received a lot of requests for that kind of experience. I'd say more so from the international markets at the moment as opposed to the local markets, but there definitely is an interest from the local markets in experiencing these kind of things on foot, focused on safety and security, making sure that we have the correct kind of guides as well as the correct kind of arms management and arms usage policies in place is key, because when you're walking out there, you need to be able to defend yourself if something goes wrong. But I must say we've got a phenomenal group of guides on the property, both just general field guides and also trail guides as well, who are all equipped and qualified to take our guests on these kind of walking excursions. And it's really for people who want to couple a little bit of exercise, really getting to the most immersive and authentic of the experiences, and then sleeping out in the wild. We do that, and it's one of our new experiences that have been added.
Yeah, listen, I can't handle bumping around at the back of a Land Rover for a couple of hours. I think it gets really annoying. I love the exercise. So tell me now that we can do both the driving and the walking safaris, but what game are we likely to encounter through our stay at Babanango?
We are, first and foremost, we're a Big Five reserve, let me say that. And I think it's very important to contextualize where we've come from as the reserve. So the Babanango Game Reserve, as I said, is just over 20,000 hectares. About 25% of that is owned by our investor. And the rest of the reserve, approximately 70 to 75%, is actually owned by community trusts. And we lease that land from the community trust on a monthly and obviously an annual basis. And that's land that over the years has been used for other purposes. And we have gone through a very strong and very intentional process of not just rewilding, but also restoring the natural habitats of those regions over the last 8 years since we started the reserve in 2018. So part of that whole process was restoring biodiversities, and that obviously means introducing different kinds of wildlife. Like I said, I can confirm we are a Big Five reserve. You will be able to see elephant. We have herds of elephant on the property, and we've got quite big populations of buffalo. We're very fortunate to have both black and white rhino on the property. And then obviously the lion and leopard are sometimes a little bit more difficult to spot, a little bit more elusive, I think is probably the right word. But we've also got camera traps located all over the reserve, and we often pick up the leopard movement on these camera traps. So we can confirm we've also got leopard on the property as well. You would appreciate, and I'm sure you will know, and many of your listeners will know, that South Africa has struggled in the last maybe 2 years with the foot and mouth disease, which has limited our ability to add more and more game back onto the reserve. And about 6 to 8 weeks ago, we got final approval from the relevant authorities to lift those restrictions. And in the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've introduced just over, I think it's 527, but let's use 500 as a round number, over 500 mammals already onto the property. And they are a range of zebra, obviously your plains antelope, blesbuck. I saw some inyala being released. We've had impala released in the recent weeks as well. There's a bunch. And as I said, it's a continuous process now, which will come a lot more to the fore now that obviously we've had the restrictions lifted from a foot and mouth perspective. So the populations are growing. And I think it's important that we mention that, because we're not yet at the level of other reserves, maybe who you will find an elephant at every corner. We have elephant on the reserve, but you actually have to go out, enjoy the topography, enjoy the landscape whilst you go and look for the particular animal that you're looking for, be it an elephant, a lion, or other. Yeah, it's a process. We're in a process of rewilding. We're in a process of creating new sort of populations. And it's something that will continue until our ecology and our reserve team tell us that we've met the most optimal levels that support the biodiversity and support the reserve.
My guests always like to mention the Big Five, but tell me, do we have the Little Five on the property? Do you have the Ugly Five? These are groups of animals that are also becoming quite prevalent on a guest's list of trying to see. Do you have these animals on the property as well?
Things like hyena. We've got, I think, one species of hyena, but not other. I don't think we've got spotted, I don't think, but we have other hyena species on the reserve. So it will vary. Those kind of species lists are available on our website. So we encourage any of your listeners to go and have a look at our website, which is easy. It's babanango.com, and go and have a look at what our species lists look like. There's obviously beautiful photography too of the kind of species, not just mammals, but also bird life that you can find on the property. As you would appreciate, and I'm sure your listeners would appreciate, as you rewild parts of the reserves like this, the bird life that returns is also absolutely phenomenal. And I can't remember the number again of species that we have off the top of my head, but again, it's a growing number. More and more are returning to the reserve as they find their homes there and begin to breed and reproduce on the reserve, which is great to see.
No, that sounds fantastic. And you guys are seemingly doing a fantastic job, Darryl. Well done to you guys. Tell me a little bit about the conservation efforts and the staff that you employ on the property.
So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, because we lease the land from the community trusts, one of the biggest driving forces behind this particular initiative and this project, over and above the conservation journey, is the impact on community. And we recruit and employ, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost 250. Again, the number is subject to change, but there's a significant number of people who are on the reserve, and the majority of the people who are employed on the reserve that come from the community. So making sure that they benefit from it, see the benefit and experience the benefit of having a tourism product, but also a conservation product like Babanango is absolutely key to the vision of this particular project. And very pleased to say we're upskilling and empowering the local communities through the work that we do. Again, it's one of our unique value propositions. If you're coming to South Africa and you'd like to come and stay at a reserve, where you have an opportunity to experience magnificent landscapes. Not only that, experience and view the big five in their natural habitat, whilst delivering an impact for a community that has previously been disadvantaged. This is ideal for you. It's leaving the legacy whilst enjoying your tourism experience.
Tourists today, especially coming to Africa, be it Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and even the western parts of some parts of Africa today, have got so much choice. Why should they think about coming to Babanango?
Let me say across South Africa, and this is widely reported and it's not my opinion, I think I can call it fact, is that we have a geographic spread problem in South Africa. And that's because we have parts of our country who have done an exceptional job in marketing and positioning themselves as the must-see experiences and product across the country. So typically an international guest coming to South Africa for the first time, on their itinerary would be a trip to Cape Town and also to the Kruger. And again, as I said, these are iconic destinations that form part of Destination South Africa. But what we have found is it's quite difficult to move and make changes to those typical itineraries. And sometimes it's not going to be for a first visit to South Africa. We have very high repeat visitation numbers to the country as from a tourism perspective. And what we're saying is when you're coming to South Africa the second time or the third time, don't go back to where you've been to try something different. And that's where a product like Babanango is so important because, again, we're in a part of the country where safaris are not necessarily, or it's not well known for the safari experience, being KZN. KZN typically is associated with a beach experience and not a bush experience. And we're giving people the opportunity to have both. And also it's about education and sharing what we've got. And that's why it's so important for us to do and participating in shows like you've got now, is to really put out that brand, but also educate people on what's available. So we're trying to get people to change their itineraries and to see more of South Africa for a number of reasons. It's about spreading the impact of tourism. It can't just be located and can't just be focused on particular areas who have hereditarily always, as a legacy, always got the impact of tourism. We really want tourism to be felt across the country, and that includes in Zululand. As I mentioned in the previous answer to the question you asked about community, is you have an opportunity at Babanango really to impact on the lives of people in rural communities because you are having an experience at a magnificent world-class reserve like Babanango and having a world-class experience at one of our properties. So I think it's a whole process of education. It's about working together. It's about collaborating as a wider tourism value chain to really get itineraries changing and also to give people an opportunity to experience something slightly different that you wouldn't typically be accustomed to, and sharing information as widely as possible to make those decisions and make that destination itinerary building an easier process. So yeah, it's a mix, and that's my job as the lead of commercial. I've only joined Babanango recently, but it's about really working with our partners across the value chain to elevate the kind of experience you could have in a part of the country which is not typically known for safari experiences.
I just want to touch one more time on the accommodation. Is there any, I don't know if benefit is the right word, but is there an opportunity where a guest might book at one of the lodges and then move on to one of the other lodges on the reserve? Is there a benefit to that in terms of the accommodation that they're going to receive, the topography, which you've spoken about? Is there a benefit from moving from one piece of accommodation on Babanango to the other? Or do you think 6 days in one place, that's perfect, and then move on for the rest of your vacation?
So I think the short answer to that is there benefit? Absolutely. Does it happen? Not that often. And the reason it happens is because the product portfolio has been designed in specific price points. And Mmadweleni offering being a 5-star sort of ultra luxury product is obviously priced at a much higher price point than what you would find at Babanango, let's say Valley Lodge. So typically guests who are going to Babanango, that kind of price point suits their pocket. They might be traveling with children, which is not ideal for Babanango, sort of the Mmadweleni River Lodge rather, because we have an age restriction there, no children under the age of 8. Simply again because of the safety constraints, it's not in an fenced area. But to answer your question, it's absolutely possible and people can do it. Whether or not they do it or not is a different question. It's not typical across the portfolio because, again, the different markets, but it does give you an opportunity to see different parts of the reserve. I will say the 20,000 hectares is actually quite a significant piece of land, and the lodges are located quite a long way from each other. In some cases, a 45 minute to an hour drive away from each other. So based on that fact alone, you get to see a very different part of the reserve. Topography-wise, I mentioned in opening remarks that Madweleni is located in the valley on the White Umfolozi River. Zulu Rock is located up on the ridge, and whilst it overlooks the valley and the river, you have a very different viewpoint and a very different experience from up there. One of the most beautiful experiences is to wake up in the morning early before the actual clouds disperse, and sometimes you have the clouds right in the valley and you feel like you're above the clouds at Zulu Rock. That kind of experience you wouldn't have at Madweleni, obviously, because it's down in the valleys. So you do have an opportunity to have very different experiences at the different lodges. But what we find is people will select a lodge based on their price point and based on what suits their needs in terms of the nature of the group traveling or the individual traveling. So yeah, it's really a really diverse offering that does appeal to many different kinds of markets.
Darryl, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated your time and energy and learning about Babanango. Let's hope that we can get a few more guests coming and choosing the different opportunities that you offer. So thanks so much for coming on board.
We appreciate the opportunity. It's been good to chat to you, and in parting, just to encourage those people who want more information to visit the babanango.com site. It's quite an extensive site in terms of what we have on offer. It will give you an idea of what it looks like, but also there's an opportunity to look at our rate structures. And then I'm happy for you to share, if anybody approaches you specifically, happy for you to share my email address. They're welcome to reach out to me directly, and I'll make sure that the reservations team or the team on the ground respond and support them in whatever information they need to secure their next trip out to the heart of Zululand.
Sure. Listen, we're going to put all your contact information in the show notes of the podcast. But again, thanks a million for coming on board. What an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Darryl, for sharing your story and for everything you're doing to grow African tourism. Don't forget, every week we feature fantastic prize giveaways from some of Africa's most beautiful lodges, camps, and travel partners. You could win your own unforgettable getaway just by listening, subscribing, or visiting www.keeptraveling.africa/podcast, or read more about today's guest by scanning through the show notes of today's episode. Don't forget to follow Keep Traveling on social media for the latest episodes, stories, and travel inspiration. I'm 𝐸𝐿𝐸, and this has been Keep Traveling, your African story. Remember, a few years from now, you won't remember how much it cost you, but you'll always remember the memories you made. Keep traveling.